President Trump is back again, second time. This is significant. We in Southeast Asia must take note. I, for one, do not believe that it's all doom. I think there are opportunities as well. In fact, there are opportunities and challenges. Let us break it down. The first area is trade and economics. America first means there's bound to be some form of trade barriers, perhaps tariffs, perhaps pressures on industries to relocate back to America, which is a process known as reshoring. But more than that, I think the problem would be the reaction of our traditional trading partners in anticipation of these tariffs. China, for example, announced recently that several solar panel companies would be ending their operations in Malaysia because they fear that the tariffs would make their products non-competitive. We could see perhaps reaction in other ways. You might see industries relocating to Southeast Asia and therefore putting pressure on Southeast Asia as a result of this. Malaysia and Thailand, for example, both have said that they are warning the Chinese companies not to excessively use this region or these countries for rebadging purposes. So what it means is that industries will now have to adjust. The US has said that a local content, I think, is defined as something like 35% content originating from the region. Previously, when Chinese companies assembled the products in Malaysia or Thailand, they could have higher Chinese intermediate components. But with this requirement for 35%, what it means now is that other companies, Malaysian companies, now will have an opportunity to fill up that gap. The medical devices industry is one very big growing industry in Asia Pacific. If I'm not mistaken, Asia Pacific is the fastest growing area for this medical devices industry. And there are many other players apart from China who are involved in this industry, and I think ASEAN can look at attracting some of them. So threats come in together with this kind of opportunities. On the other hand, I also want to draw your attention. Trump is, the way he thinks is like a businessman. In his remarks after the inauguration, he mentioned about TikTok yesterday. He said TikTok would be allowed back in America. And his rationale or reasoning was very interesting. As a president, of course, he could continue to ban TikTok, but he says that if he were to ban TikTok, there won't be any value for America. On the other hand, if he were to allow TikTok to operate, there is a possibility and a potential for America to negotiate with the owners of TikTok that some of valuation of TikTok should go to America. He was talking in terms of about 50%. So here you can see the mind of the man. Instead of banning outright, why don't we negotiate so that America can get some value out of it? As a region, is that something that ASEAN can do? Of course, I think this is the best opportunity for ASEAN to step up its economic integration efforts. For example, one of those areas that it is looking at today is the digital economy. By 2030, the digital economy is expected to hit something like $1 trillion worth. Can you imagine? By 2030, $1 trillion worth. It is time now for ASEAN to step it up significantly. ASEAN can also expand or further look into its free trade agreements so that it can further squeeze more value out of these trading arrangements which ASEAN has already put in place. The second area is regional security and stability. This is a tricky area. I mean, America could, for example, step up its military pressure on China in the South China Sea and in the Taiwan area, for example, because it is part of this growing competition between China and America. And if that were to happen, of course, what it means is that we are going to see more tensions in the South China Sea. As a result of this, we might see some actions taken by the Chinese Coast Guard or using its big vessels to intimidate countries like the Philippines. We might see more of this kind of activities going on in South China Sea. That is, if America were to take this path of pushing China to contain China militarily. On the other hand, it is entirely possible that America might take a different route altogether. If you were to have observed what Trump said in his remarks yesterday, he said the measure of winning is not just about winning a war. It is also about the wars that you did not fight, the wars that you did not take part in, and the wars that you avoided altogether. Now, this is a remarkably interesting statement coming from President Trump. What it means is that he's quite clear in his mind that avoiding unnecessary entanglement is also seen as beneficial and supportive of his big vision of making America great again. Of course, he mentioned about building up the American military to be the biggest and the best military in the world. But at the same time, it is not necessary that it must be put to use. What it means is that this could be a good time to press on with trying to conclude or make much more progress in the negotiation, the Code of Conduct in the South China Sea. It could also be an opportunity to reduce tensions. If this were to happen, it is positive, and I think ASEAN should be prepared to take advantage of this opportunity that could come in its way. It is also possible for ASEAN to step up its own intra-regional cooperation in the field of security. And the third area is America's commitment to Southeast Asia. Why this is important? Because Southeast Asia has benefited largely from American investment, American presence in the region, and American engagement with the member countries. But there is a possibility that under Trump, America may not be very active in ASEAN processes altogether, because ASEAN may not be seen as immediately delivering value to its immediate concerns of making America great again, for example. So if that were to happen, I think we could possibly see some kind of disengagement of America. Of course, one of the big questions in the minds of the ASEAN leaders is whether the American president would attend the East Asia Summit. I have my doubts whether President Trump would attend the East Asia Summit in Kuala Lumpur later this year. But even if he did not attend, it doesn't really matter very much, in my opinion. But what is important is that America must remain committed. And for that to happen, I think ASEAN need to step up its role to make sure that ASEAN is attractive to America. How can it do this? Well, ASEAN will have to find and engage closer with America to convince the new, administration that there's great value in being closely engaging with ASEAN. ASEAN should step up its internal cohesion, integration, working close with the dialogue partners, and to strengthen its own position as the central actor in the regional architecture, which means to say ASEAN should strive in all other ways to make its centrality known and felt within this part of the world. So the second coming of Trump is obviously going to be a period of challenge, but as I have pointed out, it is also going to come with opportunities.